There was once a young bacher living in one of the towns far out in Europe. He was a young bacher. He was 12 years old. And it was time for him to go to yeshiva gedolah. In those times, there was no cars, there was no transportation, and his parents were very, very poor. And he had no way of going to yeshiva, to taking, even forget about learning at yeshiva, but he had to take an entrance exam, a faher. And he went back and forth with his parents, and his parents said, Yitzi, I don't know what to tell you, but we want you to learn Torah, maybe stay local. All the big yeshivas were miles and miles away. It'd be very hard for you to go learn there. Maybe we'll hire a Malamed, a Rebbe local, and you can learn over here. It's impossible. And Yitzi really wanted to go. He wanted to learn by the great Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Shimon Shkop, Rosh Yeshiva of Grodno. And his parents said, you're so little, you're a 12-year-old little bacher. Back and forth. His parents saw that Yitzi was so ambitious, yet he was so badly wanted to learn Torah in the great Grodno Yeshiva. Until finally they agreed. They were going to walk into the end of the village, and they were going to let their little Yitzi go. It was going to take a full week for him to make it to Grodno, to walk all by himself, literally by foot. But Yitzi was determined. All he wanted to do was sit and learn Torah by the great Reb Shimon Shkop. And with tears, they walked him to the end of the village. They gave him hugs and kisses, and they said, we're going to miss you, and write back to us as soon as you get there. Please let us know how you are. And Yitzi, little 12-year-old boy, was crying as he was about to go on this long journey all himself. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles away, all alone. But he had no other way of getting there other than walking on his own 2 little feet. It was cold, it was the winter, it was snowy, it was dangerous, and it took well over a week for little Yitzi, who had very little food. He came from a poor family. He had some bread, he had some rice. And by the time he reached Grodno, he finally made it over there. He was very sick and tired, but he saw the great Grodno Yeshiva, this big, beautiful building, the Yeshiva of Reb Shimon Shkop. And all the Bachrim, they were asking, like, what are you doing here? And he said, I come from hundreds and hundreds of miles away, and all I want to do is learn in yeshiva. And they said, okay, the Rosh Yeshiva's house is just a few minutes away. And he schlepped his little feet, the last bits of koiches that he had. And he went to Shimon Shkop's house, knocked on his door, and the great Shimon Shkop, huge Talmid Chacham, the Gadol Adar, long white beard, sees this little boy and he says, what are you doing over here? And he says, I'm here to learn Torah. I want to learn in Grodno. I want to learn in your yeshiva. And this boy, besides all the difficulty he experienced on his journey to the yeshiva, he had to remember all the Gemaras he prepared for the big Faher. It was known they had to master hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blot of Gemara to get into the yeshiva, to be one of the Bachrim, top tier, to learn by Reb Shimon Shkop. And even though he had no food and he was dehydrated and he was malnourished, but he kept on chazering the Gemaras. Just imagine this little bacher, and Reb Shimon Shkop is looking at him and he's saying, where are you from? How did you get here? And he said, well, my family has no money. I come from hundreds and hundreds of miles away, and I just got here and I'm ready to take a faher. And Rosh Yeshiva understood this must have been a very, very special bacher. And he said, come in, little tzaddik. He opened this door, he had him sit down, and little Yitzi was so scared, he was so hungry, but he was ready. He had all the Gemaras ready for the big faher. And he thought that Reb Shimon Shkop was about to ask him all the questions on the Gemaras, on all of Shas, and that's what he was ready for. After he sat down, Reb Shimon Shkop asked him, he said, Tyra Yitzi, when's the last time you had a hot meal? And Yitzi was taken aback. I thought you were going to ask me Gemara in Kulin, the Gemara in Gittin, Bava Metzia. You want to know when I had a hot meal? He said, well, I'll tell you the truth. I said, I have no money. The last time I had a hot meal was a week and a half ago, back in my town. Right then and there, Rav Shimon Shkop, he said, I'm sorry, I'm not the greatest cook. My Rebbetzin's not home. But he himself, Rav Shimon Shkop, the great Rosh Yeshiva, he went and he started cooking for this bacher a delicious, nourishing meal. The bacher got his energy back. He was able to see straight again. And he's like, okay, fine, now I'm sure that the Rosh Yeshiva is going to start asking me questions on the Gemaras that I prepared. And after he made an al-michi, he benched. He thought they were ready to go. But no. Shimon Shkop asked him another question. He said, Little Yitzi, he said, when's the last time you slept in a bed? And Little Yitzi said, well, on my trip to Grodno, I slept in forests, I slept on rocks, on straw, maybe in a motel. Someone was nice enough to see what I was going through. But a bed? Not since I left my town hundreds and hundreds of miles away. And Rav Shimon Shkop said, go into my room, go into my bed, and get some rest. Rav Shimon Shkop gave up his own bed for this bacher, and the next morning he woke up refreshed and he had food again, and he felt like a mensch. And now he thought for sure he was ready for the big faher. Now that he slept, now that he ate, he was sure that now he's going to have all the Gemaras that he prepared ready to go. And that morning, Rav Shimon Shkop looked at him and he said, oh, Torah Yitzi, how you doing? He said, good, I'm feeling well, I ate, I slept. And Rav Shimon Shkop said, now let's go learn. And the bacher said, what about the faher? And Rav Shimon Shkop said, I don't need to faher you. He said, the Mesiras Nefesh that you had for Torah, that you gave up a week and a half to walk hundreds and hundreds of miles on your weak, frail little feet, and that you slept on straw and on hay and who knows where in the dark and the cold all alone, without your family, without your siblings, without a hot drink, without meals, without food, without anything, you are ready to sit and steig in my yeshiva. This bacher became a big, tremendous Talmid Chacham. He learned in the yeshiva. And soon after, the Nazis came and took over Grodno, wiped it all out. And this bacher said, when he was older, he lost his entire family in the war. And he said the thing that kept him going forever, that he's able to have the courage to go through and keep his bitachon and his emunah, and keep close to the Eibishter, not give up after all that he went through, after losing his entire family, was remembering the love and the care that Rav Shimon Shkop had for him, that the two questions he asked him, forgetting everything else, was his Mesiras Nefesh for Torah, and that always reminded him that Hashem loves me, and even when it's hard and difficult, but Hashem took care of me then, and even when things are so hard and challenging, I lost everything. But the love that Rav Shimon Shkop had for me is just a mashal, is just a glimpse into the love that Hashem has for us. And that kept him strong for years later, after he lost everything.